Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Lazy Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Sam Priestley, and in the last episode we looked at how you take an idea and then turn it into a business. Well, in case you don't yet have an idea, in this episode what I'm going to try and do is cover a few of the more popular businesses that people are launching in 2018 and hopefully give you a little bit of inspiration that maybe you can then take and turn into your own original idea and then later turn it into a proper business. Now we're going to blitz through quite a lot of different types of businesses and I'm going to go very quickly, so apologies for that. But there's quite a lot of choice out there and I don't want to delve too much into the nitty gritty of how the mechanics of these different ones work. Remember, the main purpose of this episode is to give you some inspiration and let you know just what is possible. Now I'm not going to talk about every single type of business that you could possibly start. I'm going to limit it down a bit to ones that you can really do with just yourself, a computer and an internet connection. That means that there isn't a big barrier to entry. It's not going to be location dependent. You can kind of do it from anywhere, whether you're running your business from Africa or USA or here in the UK like me. And it also means you don't need to have a big staff in order to get going. Okay, great, let's get on with it. So I've split these businesses into 5 different types. The first one is physical product brands. Now those are anything that you can really hold in your hand, something where you end up with a final product that has your branding or that is unique to you. The second one is a service-based business. Now these are ones where you are offering a service to another person or another business. Think about anything from accounting to web design services to some legal help, writing, translating, anything like that. The third one is entertainment businesses. These are any ones where you're creating something that is solely for someone else's entertainment. So I'm talking about stand-up comedy, I'm talking about videos, film, I'm talking about novels, I'm talking about video games. The fourth one is education-based businesses. These are ones where you're trying to teach someone something that is of use to them. So for instance, this podcast is an education-based business. Consider an online course where you teach someone French, or perhaps a series of YouTube videos going into the formation, rise and fall of the Roman Empire. And then finally, the last type of business we're going to look at is what I'm calling opportunity-based businesses, also sometimes called arbitrage businesses, where you're really just looking for an opportunity in the marketplace and making money from it. So this is stuff like buying something cheaply in China and reselling it in your country. These aren't really industry defined subcategories, they're just something that I've come up with to help you think about the different types of businesses that you can start. They all have their advantages, their pros and cons, and we'll look into that a little bit more as we get going. So first off, physical product brands. So how on earth do you run this sort of business from just your computer? Well, the way to do it is to outsource every step of the process that requires any touching or dealing with the physical item. For instance, you can design it, say, on your computer or hire someone to design the product. You can then go and find a factory, either in somewhere like China or a bit closer to home. You can then find another company to quality check the products and make sure they're up to your standard. You can then get another company who will organise the shipping for you and take it from where it's been made to where you plan to sell it. You can then use another company to handle your fulfilment, such as Amazon's Fulfillment by Amazon system, or one of many hundreds of other fulfillment companies. And you can then sell on directly to other businesses or distributors, such as physical shops, or you can have your own online store, e-commerce store, or use things such as Amazon or eBay to sell online. Companies have been building these sort of logistics networks for decades, probably even centuries. But it's only really in the last few years they've become both accessible and also popular for people like us to use. That is, small-time, one-man or small team businesses. That is largely because of 2 businesses, both of which you might well have heard of. One of them is Amazon FBA and the other one is Alibaba. Alibaba is an online marketplace where you can get in touch directly with hundreds of factories around the world, particularly in places like China and India, where the cost of producing goods are very low. And you can work with them to create your own private label products. And by private label, I'm talking about anything from just slapping your brand on a generic product that they're already making, to inventing something completely new and designing it with them. Whereas once upon a time, you'd either have to travel out to these countries to find the factory, or you'd have to go to one nearby which needed a really large minimum order. Now you can deal with these small-time factories, all of which are competing for your business and are willing to create you your first product for just a few £100s. And Amazon FBA, known as Fulfillment by Amazon, is the logistics network behind Amazon. It's a series of warehouses that us as sellers and small businesses can use. We can send in our products in bulk to their warehouses, and then whenever an order comes through on Amazon or on our own website, Amazon will process the order, go to the warehouse, pick it out, and then send it out for delivery. Fulfillment networks like this aren't a new thing, but ones that don't have a minimum order or a large monthly fee and that have easy web interfaces are few and far between. So by combining these two services, easy to find factories with cheap and small minimum orders, and then easy to use distribution network with low minimum order requirements, it means that small businesses can start and launch their own brands very cheaply and with just 1 or 2 people on the team. Both of these services have picked up a bit of a reputation as being maybe not scammy, but definitely a get-rich-quick scheme. Please don't look at them like that. They are not get-rich-quick schemes, but they are tools that can help you build your brand and scale it. If your brand is rubbish, then it's not going to work, no matter how good their distribution system is. You still need to do all the branding, product design, and most of all, the marketing yourself. Okay, so you want to start a product-based business. Well, what do you create? Well, the world really is your oyster. Generally, I recommend staying away from electronics, starting with something that doesn't really have a sell-by date and doesn't have too many moving parts. You don't want it too simple because you want your brand to bring the idea of quality to the product. So it can't be something like, marshmallow sticks, where any one marshmallow stick is much the same as the other. It needs to be something where people look at your brand and associate quality, and where they can look at 2 products that look very similar and don't really know whether one is better than the other, and instead rely on brand name and pricing to help them decide. Generally, I say don't go too heavy because then your storage and delivery costs will be really high. Don't go too expensive because then the cost of returns or problems with single items will cost you a lot. And don't go too big. Similar reason to why not to go too heavy. And also you don't want to go too cheap because then the fulfillment costs, that is the delivery and stuff, will take up too large a portion of the price. For instance, if you're selling an iPhone cable for £5, you're going to really struggle to make any money because just the delivery alone is going to probably cost you around £3-4. Further to that, you probably want to create something that you yourself will use. In particular, if you've got any sort of hobby or something you're quite interested in that's not particularly mainstream. So for instance, for me, the 2 product-based businesses I have at the moment, one is a gin company. I started because I really like gin and had a good idea for how I can create something a bit different. And the other one is a table tennis bat because I'm very interested in table tennis and had an idea about something I could create that would be a bit different. The other advantage of doing something that relates to a hobby or interest that you already have is that you probably have a good idea of how to market it already. You'll know people who are interested in that and you'll know where people like you hang out. I've started with this type of business because it is my favourite, but it does have one big downside. And that is that you do need a fair amount of money to start. Maybe not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but still you do need, I'd say, probably a minimum of £5,000. And do not expect to take your money out too quickly. Building a brand takes time, getting the prototypes right, getting your stock made, getting it into the warehouses, and then starting to sell all takes time. And then what you'll find is that as soon as you start selling and you start bringing in a profit, you'll need that money to invest in more stock and bigger product lines. You're probably looking at more like a year really before you can start paying yourself a salary. If you're looking for something that will get you out of your job right now, this is not it. But it is something that you can start on the side and build up slowly, and then in 6 months, a year, maybe a year and a half, you should have something that is earning you a decent income and that is worth something. And from there, the sky's the limit. There is no reason why a brand started this way as a one-person business cannot grow and scale and become the next Apple or the next Nike or the next Adidas. Okay, I think that's enough on physical product businesses. There is a huge amount more to say, and in the show notes I'll link to a few articles where I go into more depth. But for now, that gives you a brief overview. You can, as a one-man band, now in 2018, start your own brand and grow it to be in a multinational business. I've done it a few times, and there are countless examples all over the internet of people doing the same. Let's move on to the next one, service-based businesses. I've put this one second, partly because it is almost a complete opposite to the first. Whereas a physical product-based business might need a year and a half before you can start taking money out, service-based businesses often start earning straight away. A few years ago, I convinced my then girlfriend, now wife, to quit her job and start a business so that we could go travelling together. What business did she start? A service-based business, so that she would start earning straight away and could start funding our travels. Perhaps the easiest service-based business to start is as a freelancer. That is where you're taking on jobs for other people in something quite niche. Let's say you're good at website design, you could take on jobs to build someone a website. Let's say you're good at SEO, you can take on jobs to do some SEO. Or in my wife Emma's case, let's say you've got a background in marketing, you can start doing marketing jobs for people. Freelancers covers a huge variety of things, from writers to translators, to lawyers to accountants. And often you can get going pretty much immediately. There are quite a few services out there, such as a Freelancer, Upwork, People Per Hour, that lets you both hire and advertise yourself as a freelancer. Once again, freelancing isn't a new business model, but the internet does make it easier than ever, both to get started and to find clients. What I really like about this business model is you can start small with almost no initial investment and then scale it up. You can scale it up either by taking on more staff or outsourcing some of your works. Say you were doing marketing, you can start with just yourself, and then as you get more jobs, you can start outsourcing parts of it to other marketers, or even bring people in-house and build your own marketing agency. Or you can also scale up by charging more and more and more. One of my side businesses is a consultancy. I don't do much work on it because I don't really enjoy it. But when I do, I charge quite a lot of money, so it really is worth my time. And the beauty is that as my consultancy gets more popular and I get more work than I want, I can just slowly put my prices up, change the supply and demand balance until it is the level I'm happy at. So how do you get going with a service-based business? Well, if you already have an in-demand skill, then it's quite straightforward. Let's say you're a certified accountant, it is then very easy for you to start offering your services as an accountant. Or let's say you have a background in web development and you're really good at making websites, it'll be very easy for you to start. But let's say you don't have any of those skills. What do you do? Well, there are sort of basic things that is always needed. If you're an English language native speaker, there's always demand for people who can write fairly legible English language. Or if you don't have that, there are really basic things such as data entry. But generally, those jobs that anyone can do are quite limited in how much they pay. You'd probably be better off looking to develop a skill that is in demand. For instance, in 2017, life coaching became quite trendy. A lot of people trained as life coaches, maybe spent a few months and went to 1 or 2 courses, got a qualification, and then started offering their services and getting clients. For years, programming has been very popular, and people would do courses online and start programming. Or more niche stuff, such as WordPress implementation, installing WordPress sites for new bloggers. What skills do you have that you can use and sell on as a freelancer? Or what skills do you think are going to be in demand soon? One of the great things about the internet at the moment is that information is very easy to acquire. You no longer need to go to a very expensive university to learn a course. Now a lot of universities are putting their material up online for free. And even if there's not, there's often alternative ways to learn these once quite elitist subjects. So I've spoken a little bit about the advantages of doing a service-based business. Let me talk a little bit about the disadvantage. One of them is that it's a lot more difficult to scale your business independently of you. Your personality and your skill set are often tied to whatever it is you do. The brand Adidas, it doesn't matter who is controlling it at the time, that is still a powerful brand and worth something. Whereas my Sam Preece Consulting, no one else can do that. I need to be there, I need to be putting in the hours and exchanging my time for money. Yes, it is possible to build an agency and have it independent yourself and then sell it on, but it is much more difficult. The other disadvantage is that because it is so easy to get into, there is so much competition already out there. This in turn drives the price down and means that what might be quite a valuable skill once upon a time, you can now get quite cheaply. If you try and market yourself as the cheapest in field, you're going to fail. There will always be someone willing to do it for less money than you. Instead, you need to narrow down, niche down, and skill up. Okay, enough for service-based businesses. Let's move on to the next type. Entertainment-based businesses. Now, this is something I don't know that much about, as I've never built one myself. But you see them all the time. People from Instagram celebrities, to YouTubers, to Twitch streamers, to stand-up comedians, to video game developers. There's a whole industries built off the back of providing content for other people's entertainment. And nowadays you don't need to have a publisher or a literary agent to say you're good enough to publish your own novel. And you don't need a big movie studio to okay your idea in order to produce a movie. Nowadays you can just go do it yourself and then publish the content yourself. And if people like it, they will sign up and support you. If you are an artist, or you have great ideas for movies, or you've always wanted to create some sort of entertainment, now is pretty much the best time ever, probably in the history of humanity, for you to do it. People are quite willing to support new ideas and new projects. There's websites like Patreon, where people can give you basically monthly donations in order to help you fund you to produce your art. Brands are paying a lot of money for Instagram celebrities and YouTube stars to help promote their products. And there's obviously the standard advertising networks built into places like YouTube, which will pay money directly to the content creator without having to go through loads of different agents. People keep telling me that the age of YouTube and the SoundCloud rapper, that they're over and that those things are now too competitive. I really disagree. I think that those entertainment mediums are just becoming more and more popular, and we're going to see the next generation of Netflix original series and big money investments will be going towards YouTube creators and independent producers. It's hard really to compare this type of business to the other two because it depends so much on the quality and the sort of production value of whatever it is you're creating. If you're naturally good at filmmaking and you work really hard and you have a little bit of luck to help you along, then you could well really make it big. On the other hand, you might not be very good. I tried my hand at writing novels. I wrote a quick one which I published on Amazon, and it's not a talent that I have. Maybe one day it's something I'll work on as a passion project, but I know that for me it's never really going to be a viable income stream or a business. But that does bring me on to our next type of business, which uses pretty much all the same mediums as an entertainment type business, but isn't so dependent on you being interesting or creative or popular. And that is an education-based business. As you can tell from this podcast, the production value isn't great. I'm not trying to be as entertaining as possible, and really if I was trying to make a comedy podcast I would fall flat on my face and fail. What I do have is quite a lot of knowledge on a few subjects which a lot of people find helpful and interesting. The plan is that people will find the content of this podcast useful enough that they can get over the sort of dullness of my voice or the low production quality of my microphone and audio editing skills. We've mentioned a load of different mediums already. YouTube, podcasting. There's also a whole load of other ways to get your educational content out there. From blogging, such as my website at sampriestley.com, to creating your own courses that people pay for, to doing webinars, which are kind of live lecture style, but with a bit of audience interaction, kind of like live videos, and even setting up conferences and in-person lectures around the world. If you're a real expert in something, then obviously this is quite a straightforward and an obvious business for you to try out. Let's say you're really good at the piano, you're a world-class pianist, then you'll probably find there's quite a big market of people who would want to learn directly from you through something like Skype, or from them recording their music and sending it to you. There might even be an audience for you to teach some of your techniques via YouTube or a paid course. But then again, maybe not, because maybe there's a lot of pianists already out there. Maybe even though the thing you're best at is piano, there might be something else you're almost as good at, but that isn't as competitive. I would suggest there's really two ways for you to go when starting this sort of business. One is try to find one customer at a time and sell to them directly. You can look on freelancing websites, for instance, or try and find an agency that puts, say, piano teachers together with students, and start there, and then slowly build your business from there. And so you add on more things like YouTube videos and maybe paid courses or a self-published book and start selling to the same audience. Or you can approach it from the complete other side. You can start creating content and then hope that people will come across it, and you'd build an audience that way. For instance, I make a pretty good income from my blog, but I built that by just putting all my information out there for free, slowly creating more and more content, and then doing some marketing to try and get people to read it. I think it took 6 months before it made any money, and maybe I think it was about a year and a half before it was paying pretty much a full-time income. And I think that's pretty quick. Whereas if you approach it from the other direction, you can start earning straight away. All you need to do is find one client, and you earn a little bit of money from them. Then you find another client, and a little bit of money from them, and then build up from there. And then scale it by introducing all the other mediums that can be accessed by sort of an unlimited number of people. Alright, let's move on to our fifth and final category, opportunity-based businesses. I ummed quite a bit about whether I should include this category or not. But I know that if I didn't, I would get loads of questions. What about dropshipping? What about retail arbitrage? What about match betting? All of the popular buzzwords that you see plastered across Facebook and that gurus from Timbuktu and beyond are posting and promoting. So yeah, let's touch on this briefly. By opportunity-based business, what I mean is any sort of business that you're basically making money from a market inefficiency. Let's talk about retail arbitrage as an example. So retail arbitrage is when you find something in a shop you can sell for more online. For instance, there's a few apps, I'll put them in the show notes, where you can go and you can wander around your local supermarket or whatever, scan each item, and it will compare the price it's sold for in the supermarket to how much it would be sold for on Amazon, and then we'll give you an idea of how much money you'd make if you were to simply buy it and then send it off to an Amazon FBA warehouse. A very simple business model that makes its money by finding inefficiencies in the market. The inefficiencies between the price you can get it locally versus the price it goes for online. That is retail arbitrage, and people do make good money out of it, but it is getting harder and harder. The more people who do it, the less products there are that have this arbitrage opportunity. and the more competitive it gets. Slowly it's going to get harder and harder and harder until really there's going to be no difference between the price you can get stuff in a shop and the price you can sell it for online. Because of that, I don't really recommend it as a long-term business. But that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. One of the advantages of it is that you can start straight away with just £100 or so and instantly start learning how Amazon works and how Amazon FBA works. You can use it to build up a float to then launch a different type of business. For instance, you can do a bit of retail arbitrage using Amazon FBA, get used to how everything works, get your account in good standing, and then go and launch your own brand using Amazon FBA. The same principle really applies to all these businesses I'm going to talk about that come on the opportunity-based business. They're normally either short term, as in it's an opportunity that's getting tighter and tighter and more competitive, or that has quite a low cap to how much money can be made. And because of this, you should go into it knowing that it's not going to last forever and it's not going to make you a millionaire. Much better would be to use them as a short way to earn a bit of cash flow to then build into a more sustainable, more scalable and longer term business, such as any of the other 4 categories we've already talked about. Okay then, let's talk about a few of these opportunities. So we've spoken about retail arbitrage. Another one is match betting. Match betting is where you take advantage of a sign-up offer that somewhere like a casino or a bookmaker gives you, and then you extract as much value as you can from that offer and keep it. Match betting exists because bookies are in competition with each other and they're trying to attract customers in. They think if they basically give you free money at the beginning, then you're going to stick around and use them long into the future. So where the opportunity lies in just signing up to every bookmaker out there, taking advantage of her, and then never playing there again. I started match betting about 10 years ago, and back then it wasn't very well known and there was a lot of opportunity, and I made quite a lot of money out of it. But now it is much more understood and has pretty much matured. You can still make money out of it, but it's pretty much limited per person. I'd say you could probably expect to make a fairly straightforward £2,000, and then after that you'd have to work really hard to make any more, or you should just sort of give up and move on to something else. So do I recommend match betting? Yes, I recommend match betting if you're trying to create a cash flow in order to do something else, or just need a bit of extra beer money on the side. I don't recommend it as a long-term business. Another opportunity is dropshipping. Dropshipping can mean a whole bunch of things. Generally it is when you have a storefront, which can be your own website, or it can be something like Amazon or eBay, where a customer comes to you, they buy a product, but you don't actually have that product, you don't actually own it. When the order gets placed with you, you then send that order on to the actual manufacturer of the product, and then they deliver it to the customer. Now, this business model can be used very effectively to build your own brand if the company you're working with doing the actual drop shipping is able to make your own unique branded items. But that's not normally what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is generally selling quite generic or sort of well-known brands, but having it on your website or on a medium where it's more expensive than elsewhere. A simple example might be that I copy a bunch of listings on Amazon and put them over to eBay and just add, say, £10 to the price of everything. Then if someone buys something from me on eBay, I go over to Amazon, buy the product and put in that person's delivery address. I make the difference in price between what it's going for on eBay and what it's going for on Amazon. If you buy a course on how to dropship, generally what they'll tell you to do is create your own website, stock it full of products, put a markup on those, and then just try and drive as much traffic as possible to your own website. Again, I don't really like it as a long-term business model because people are getting more and more savvy. I think gone are the days really where you can have different prices all around the internet and people wouldn't really know how to price compare. Whereas now, as soon as they look on your website, they're probably going to go compare the price to what it is on Amazon, and if it's cheaper, buy it on Amazon. So dropshipping does work. And it does have the advantage of not needing really any initial investment to start up, because you don't hold any stock. You're just sort of passing orders straight on. But it is very competitive now. It's quite difficult to make money, and it's getting harder by the day. And the final opportunity I'm going to talk about are niche websites. Now, again, a niche website can be a really high quality, targeted website that could be a huge business in the future. But generally, when people talk about niche websites in the online business world, that's not what they mean. What they mean is you just create hundreds of different websites about a particular topic. The topic could be the best vacuum cleaners. You create a website, try and get it to rank high on Google for the best vacuum cleaner. You fill it with kind of generic information about vacuum cleaners, and then put sort of refer a friend, what we call affiliate links, to somewhere like Amazon or a shop where the person can go and buy a vacuum cleaner and who will pay you a commission in exchange. I'm only really mentioning this one because there's still a lot of people who talk about it, and I still get a lot of emails asking about it. Basically, 10 years ago, when the internet was still fairly new, this was quite a big money maker. It was quite easy to get high on Google, and there weren't that many websites around about quite niche topics, such as the best vacuum cleaner. Whereas now, there is 1,000,001 websites doing the exact same thing. If you want to build a website in a niche, you've got to really spend a lot of time on it. You can't just churn out stuff for 100 different niches, all quite similar, all quite samey, and hope to make good money. Yes, people do, but it's not a good business for someone new to start. On the other hand, if we go back to the education style of businesses, if you do know loads about one particular topic, such as a taekwondo, or maybe even vacuum cleaners, maybe you're a world-class vacuum cleaner technician, then making a really in-depth niche site that is actually your whole business could be the way forward. But again, creating loads of generic niche websites is not a good plan. Okay everyone, thanks for sticking with me as we've blitzed through all these different types of businesses. I know it's been quite quick going and we haven't really got into the meat of any of them properly. So what I'm going to do, in the show notes, I'm going to start putting links to more information about each one. I've got quite a lot of blog posts, and there's quite a lot of other very good resources out there on the net that I will link to, so that if anything took your interest, or there's an opportunity, or just some inspiration that you've taken, then go do further research, and as I said in the first episode, just get going, get started. I'll also try and do some more podcasts talking about sort of the nitty-gritty of the different businesses, and so expect to see them over the next few days or weeks, or whenever I really get around to it. You can contact me at hello@sampriestley.com. That's hello@sampriestley.com. Sam Priestley is spelled SAMPRIESTLEY.com. That's LEY at the end. That's what everyone gets wrong. I get quite a lot of bounce emails from that. But apart from that, I hope you have a good day and that you've enjoyed listening to podcasts. Thank you very much.